Okay, class. So I'm going to really quickly show you the flag and mop-up exercise we did last night in class. So essentially you need to get there's two pictures you need to get. And so this is essentially us starting in InDesign and building our newspaper project, kind of getting ready to use some of the techniques we'll use for it. So you'll notice under this week, week 6, flag and mop-up, the assignment there. If you want to go ahead and click on that, you'll notice these two images right here, the Winter Olympic women's snowboard cross medalist and the stars picture. So you want to go ahead and download both of those. Once you have them downloaded, I want you to go ahead and open your InDesign. And we're essentially just going to make a quick newspaper just to show you some of the techniques and how to use InDesign. Remember, InDesign, the main thing about InDesign is it's about frames. So anything you do in InDesign, you need to, whether it's a graphic or an image or text, it needs to go into a frame first. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's go to Create New, and we'll just go to Print, and we'll change picas to inches. Picas is an old printing term. We'll change this to 10.5, and we'll change the height to 17. 5 columns. And let's set our column gutter to 0.375. So 10.5 by 17, 5 columns, column gutter 0.375. And let's hit create. And so you're going to see we have basically our document already set up with this. We've got 5 columns, which we can put all of our body copy in. And so we've got this nice grid structure set up. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to build the flag or the title of the newspaper. And remember, so if you're gonna, you can't just click. So if I take the text and click, it doesn't do anything. You have to build a frame first or pull out a marquee then to put the text in. Same way with the image. If you're gonna place an image, you have to use a frame. You draw the frame out, then you put the image in it or the text. So in this case, when we're doing text, we're going to essentially just pull out a text frame box, something about that size. And I'm going to type in the name of my newspaper, which is going to be 2018. We're doing a Winter Olympics theme here. Winter Olympics. Okay, there we go. Then I'm just going to select that by scrolling over the text. And I'm going to hit Command T, which will pull up my character palette. So that's Command T, not like in Photoshop where that was transferred. So I'm going to choose I'm just going to choose a basic font here. I'm just going to go with Arial. And then I'm going to make it the font as big as I can to fill up that whole box. All right, so 48 is not quite big enough. Maybe 60 is too big. So I can actually manually enter here. Let's try 55. Maybe 57. That's perfect. Then I'm going to change the vertical scale of it because I want it to be taller to take up more of that space. So I'm going to change it to, about, actually I like the 150%. You kind of do what you think that looks best for you. Then essentially what I want to do is just, I'm going to make this text box a little smaller, and then I'm going to move the text down. Now you can either grab and pull it, or you can just use your arrows on your keyboard to kind of pull it down. So something along those lines. So there we go. Also remember, if you can't find your fonts or your character palette, you can always go, if Command T didn't work for you, you can always go to Window, and then Types and Tables, excuse me. And Character is where the fonts and sizes are. And Paragraph is also if you want to right or left justify things, so on and so forth. You can see I've got them open over here as well. And I've just been minimizing them by clicking on those arrows. And then by clicking it again, it pulls up. One important other thing I want to show you that you should remember is that if you want to preview your work, because right now we're seeing grids and we're seeing the box of the title, just hit W on your keyboard and that will allow you to preview your work. So it's just W on your keyboard. You can also, that's also down here. If you just click and hold this very bottom box, you can change it to different modes. You could change it to presentation, which would just be what it looks like by itself, and then you could get out of that by hitting escape. So remember, just W allows you to go from preview back to normal. Okay. All right, so the next thing we want to do is we want to add the edition and the date of the newspaper and how much it costs. So I'm going to just, oops, sorry. zoom in here a little bit. Command plus or minus helps you zoom in or zoom out. Then I'm going to choose the line tool to make a line going across, but I'm going to change my stroke value to 0.5. If you're having issues where you're not seeing some of these screens, make sure you're on Essentials. You may have something where you need to change this back to Classic Essentials to see this stuff up here. So depending on which version you are and which workflow you're working on, if this is not what you're seeing, maybe go back to Classic Essentials. So then I'm going to draw a line, but before I do that, I'm going to hold the Shift key down because I want it to be a straight line. I'm just going to draw it right across there, and that looks good. Then I'm just going to go back and select my selection tool, hold my Option key down because I want to duplicate that line, and just pull it down to about right there. So if I preview now, I have this, which looks great. So I'm going to write in here the edition, the date, and how much it costs. So remember, to place anything on the page, you have to build a frame first. So I'm going to draw out a frame right here where the edition's going to go. And I'm going to just type in edition 101. Just, say, could be one, wherever you are with making a newspaper. In this case, this is our first one, but I'm just putting 101 in there. I'm going to pull up my character tab. Again, if you don't see it, remember just Command T will do it. Command T. And I'm going to make this Arial as well. I just want some consistent fonts throughout. And I think I'm going to make the points about 14. All right, so that looks good. Then I'm going to choose my selection tool again. And I'm going to bring that down to kind of center it in those two boxes, something along those lines. Now I know I want to put the title here, or the date here, and how much it costs over here. So I'm just going to duplicate this box by holding Option down and dragging it over. And if you hold Shift and Option, it'll keep it in the same horizontal rule. So I'm going to put the date in here, which is November 2nd, 2018. Go back to my selection tool, and I'm going to Option, select that again, and then Option Shift. Once more, to duplicate it and also keep it on the horizontal line that I'm pulling over. And then you can set the cost. Mine's just going to be for free. That's fine. Now I want to have this right justified, so I need to pull up my paragraph tool, which is under Window, Table, Type in Tables, and then Paragraph. That's where you'll find all text stuff. I already have it open, so I'm just going to click it here. And here you can see you can change the different justifications. So I'm going to right align it, and boom, there we go. Go back to my selection tool, and I'm just going to preview it to see what we have. All right, that's looking pretty solid. Okay, so if these weren't aligned, you want to spend some time aligning them, but mine are aligned, so I'm going to move on. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to place a picture, kind of my main picture of my story. So in order to place a picture, you need a frame first. So I'm going to grab my rectangular frame tool, or F on your keyboard, and I'm going to pull out a frame the size of these 3 columns, but not in the gutter. About that size. Anything in the width in the 5 or the height in the 5. It doesn't matter, just as long as it's relatively close to mine. Now, here's my frame. In order to place anything in the frame or put an image there, you have to place it. Now you could go File, Place, or you could simply hit Command D, which will then pull up this thing to help you go find your picture. So go find your picture. It's the 2010 Winter Olympics. And let's go ahead and hit Open once you've selected it, and it'll put it in the box. Now you're noticing that the picture is absolutely huge in the frame. We'll talk about that in a minute, but go ahead and hit V on your keyboard, or choose the selection tool. There's a really important distinction you need to know within InDesign. So what we have here is we have a frame, and then the picture's inside the frame. So you can see right now that the frame is selected. So if I make the frame bigger, it shows me more of the picture. But if I want to resize just the image, I need to click on this bullseye here. Oops. Which does not seem to be working. Interesting. All right, I'm a little flummoxed here why it's not letting me choose the image. All right, so you can see I'm able, oops, there I moved the frame. If I take that, I can just move the image. But for some reason, it's not letting me select the image in there, which is interesting. Maybe if I go to my direct selection tool, that is not doing, well, that's a little far out. Well, we won't worry about it for right now. We'll talk about that in a minute. But, well, let's move on. Let's go ahead and just control or right click on the image itself, and let's go to fitting. So we need to get this picture to fit in the frame correctly. So if we go fitting and we choose fill frame proportionately, boom, there it fills the frame proportionally. Now actually I'm able to see, so you can see if I choose the picture, it chooses the frame, but if I hit the bullseye, it now is allowing me to choose the picture. You know you've chosen the picture. It must have been just too huge to choose it otherwise, because now there's a yellow box around it. So now if I have the yellow box and I hold my shift key down, I can resize the image, or I can move it around within the frame. So there's two things going on there. You have the frame and you have the picture inside the frame. This is just the frame. Then if you hit the bullseye, it selects the picture. Now, if you want to resize the frame and the picture, you essentially need to select the frame, and then I believe it's hold Control and Option down. That is not correct. There it is. It's Option and, I'm sorry, on the Mac, it's Shift and, let me do it again. Yeah, it's Shift and Command. So Shift and Command allows you to resize, actually, it should be Option and Command. Actually, I'm sorry, so it's Option and Command that allows you to resize the picture and the frame together. So Option and Command. So I'm resizing both of those. Actually, Shift and Command. So use Shift and Command, sorry about that. So Shift and Command will allow you to change the picture and the frame together. So really quick, let's add a stroke to this image just for a sense of boundary. So I'm going to select the frame. So remember, that's the frame, that's the image. So select the frame. And let's just put like a 0.5 stroke around this. So that should do. So let's just preview it real quick. All right, so we're good there. Now, last thing I forgot to do with the flag, you have to kind of, or the title of the paper, you kind of have to decorate it yourself. Well, in Illustrator, the assignment says in Illustrator to build the flag. So that's something you want to think about. You need to build your own title in Project 3 in Illustrator. So what I want to do is just kind of show you a quick way that I could add some flair to this to kind of make it more of an interesting title. So I'm going to put that star, those stars or the snowflakes behind this to give it a little bit of flair. So first thing I need to do is pull out a frame, because I want to place an image. And then I go to Command D to place the image, find my stars, hit open, and there it is. And so once again, you can see that the image is too big for the frame. So if you go to V on your keyboard to get to the selection tool and then right click again, control click or right click, and then go to fitting and then fill frame proportionally. That will fill the frame proportionally with the object. So there we go. Here, that's exactly what we want. So now we want to put this behind. I'm going to resize it just a little bit. So Shift Command to resize both. And then I am going to arrange it by right-clicking on the snowflake and then hit Send to Back. So it's right-click, Arrange. Now I want to duplicate this many times across the whole title. So I'm just going to hold my Option key down and pull out. And then just keep doing that, holding Option and then dragging to the right, just to create this nice little snowflake effect in the background. And if I wanted to, I could make one of these a little bit bigger. Shift Option to pull it out. You can kind of just play around with it. So now if I hit W to preview, I have this. Oops, nice snowflake effect. And I might pull this one up a little bit. So there we go. Kind of just made the title a little bit more interesting. And so remember, you need to do that in Illustrator to build your own flag. All right, so moving on, we need to add some text. We need to add the caption, the title, who it's by, and some body copy here. So we're going to do this relatively quick here. So let's pull out, once again, we need a frame to place anything. So we're going to put a caption right here. And actually, I don't want to go into that gutter. So I'm going to pull that back a little bit. The idea being that you are going to put, you're going to fill in this story yourself. That was part of the homework for the class. But anyway, so there we have it. We have our text frame here. We're going to add some text in there. It's basically a caption talking about, you know, whatever is going on. Americans win all medals. And for the sake of time, instead of writing more, I'm just going to right-click right there. And you'll see a thing that says fill with place text holder. Let's just click that, and it automatically fills it with Laura Minson. I'm just going to hit a period at the end, oops, to show that I've actually finished a sentence there. Then I'm going to drag over all the text, hit Command T to pull up my text if it isn't already up. And then I'm going to change this to match my Arial again. And I might make it a little bit smaller, like maybe 10 point. Now it's looking like it's a little close to the image, so I'm going to click the V from my selection tool and just move it down a little bit. Okay, there we go. All right, now we need a title here. And I might actually just pull that up a little bit. Now we need a title. So once again, I need to make a frame. And I'm going to pull it all the way out there. And then I'm going to type in Americans win all places. And you'll notice in newspapers, a lot of times they just capitalize the first letter. That's it. They don't capitalize the other. Then I'm just dragging my mouse over that. I still have my character palette open here. I'm going to go to Arial one more time here. And I'm going to make this big to fill up that box. So 48 is too big. 36 is perfect. Once again, I'm going to scale it vertically to give it some more power, more weight. And I'm actually going to go one more time. Then it's obviously running into, I'm going to make this smaller just so it's more within the box. It's running into my text up there. So I'm just going to pull it down. So if I hit W now, and you notice because this is selected, it still appears, but if I click off to the side, it's gone. That looks pretty good. I might maybe move it right there. So looking pretty good. Okay. All right, so we can move on now. Now we want to add our body copy. So I'm just going to pull out a frame here. And I'm just going to go ahead and right-click again, right-click, and then hit that fill with placeholder text again. Just for the sake of time, I don't, you know, in a demo, I'm just going to do it that way. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to create another column within those gutters. That's the same exact height. Right-click, place with text holder. And then finally, one more. You could also just duplicate those if you wanted to. It's nice to see different text though. Right-click and fill with place text. And then boom. So a couple last techniques I want to show you here. We need to add, I would like to add a drop cap to the first letter here. So I'm going to select the G, just the G. And actually I can't tell if I've got that selected. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Yep, so I have the G just selected. And I want to add a drop cap. So how you would add a drop cap is in the paragraph. So if you don't see your paragraph thing again, which I just kind of remember, I just minimize mine over to the side and then you click it again, it comes up. You always just go back to Window, type in tables, and there's paragraph. So, and here is the drop cap. You can see if you hold your mouse over it, it tells you. So I'm just going to make that bigger. And I'm going to go 3. And so there we have a nice little drop cap. That looks great. Okay. All right, so one final element here. Actually, there's 2 final things I want to show you. Let's quickly just preview that to see what we have. Oops. Oops, I got my cursor in there. My bad. Got to get out of the text. And if we hit W now, and zoom out just a little bit, we can see we have beginnings of a nice newspaper there. All right, so let's say we wanted to add a pull quote, and we wanted to put it in between these two columns. So what we're going to do is basically we need to pull out a box for our to place it in. But you know what I want to do? I want to place a colored box down first and put the text on top. So I'm just going to pull out the rectangle tool, and I'm going to pull a box out from here all the way, about running halfway through this column, something like that. And then I'm going to pull up the color palette over here. And actually, I don't want any strokes, so I'm going to get rid of that. But the color, I'm going to hit black here. It's going to change the box black. But I want it to just be a light gray, so I'm going to pull the K value or the black value down. Something along those lines. Okay, there we go. All right, now I want to place my text. And because this is a frame, even though it's just a rectangular frame, it's a rectangular box, it's still considered a frame. So I can type in it. So let's do, this is kind of a drop cap, or kind of a pull quote, but just play along with me here. So we'll go exciting news. And then I'm just going to add some more filler text in here for the sake of time. I right-clicked, fill with placeholder text. Put a period at the end to show the end of the sentence. Something I neglected to do too is change my body copy font. So I will do that real quick. So a Minion Pro works good. It is a serif. Remember, oftentimes serifs work better as body copy because the little feet make it easier to read. But I'm going to choose a different serif just for fun. I'm going to choose Georgia. And go ahead and put a period there. It's a little bit big for my taste, so I'm going to take this down to 11 point. And just delete that. Oops. And maybe I'll make it italic just to show that. And then the exciting news, I'll make that Arial because I've been doing a lot of my titles in Arial. And maybe I'll make it bold as well, which is right here under regular and bold. Okay, so almost done here. But before I don't forget, I'm going to change my text real quick to that, Georgia. And if you scroll back up, it'll show you all the fonts you've been using, as well as I'm just going to click in there and then hit Command-A. That'll select all that text, change it to Georgia, and finally. And font size is usually good for body copy around 11 to 12. Some people might go 10, but it's easiest to read around there. Okay. Now, a couple things I need to do yet with this is if you notice if I preview this, it's not really doing anything yet. It's sitting on top of the text. But what we can do is wrap this whole shape around this text. So you'll notice up here, this is the text wrap options. You can also go to Window and then Text Wrap. And essentially what I want to do is just wrap the text around the object. And so there it's wrapped it around there. Now I notice it's a little tight here and I want to give this a little more space. So I'm going to unclick this because this basically has got all the dimensions locked together and I want to just change one individually. Just this side, I just want to push this over this way a little bit. So I'm going to raise that. Ooh, perfect. So that looks good. All right, now one last thing we noticed. So great, I've got this nice text wrap going here. Is that the box, the text is kind of tight in the box. So if I select the box, I mean it's tight on the top and the side. So if I select the box and then I go to Object and then Text Frame Options. So Object, Text Frame Options. And then in the inset here, if I make the top a little bit bigger, it's going to pull it down. Great. And if I actually, that looks great. So I'm good to go there. So I can hit OK. And then if I click off now, it's looking pretty solid. I'm noticing here on the top, though, I've got a little bit, the text wrap looks a little close. So maybe I'll increase that just a little bit. And actually that looks all right. Okay, so there we go. We've got a nice little text wrap with a little bit of a pull quote. Usually pull quotes are bigger, but I just wanted to give you an example of how you might go about that. So finally, I wanted to show you one last thing. So let's go back to our preview. One cool thing about InDesign, let's say I go and just copy a bunch of text somewhere. Let's see if I can find some. All right, here's a bunch of text. Yeah. And I just copy a bunch of text. And remember, for your article, you need to find things from Wikipedia or free options for text. And then I go ahead and draw a couple columns here real quick. Here's one column. And then I paste that text in. You're going to notice this little plus sign down here. So if you hit V on your keyboard, go back to your selection tool. Oh, it's not letting me do it, so I'll just select it up here. And then you click on that plus. It then loads the remainder of the text in your cursor, and then you can draw out another column, and it'll place the text. It's kind of a cool little feature that InDesign has. So just remember that. So if you have that extra text, you can always hit the plus and then pull out a new column and it'll place it there. Okay, so that's it for today. If you didn't finish the assignment in class, what you need to do now is put a second story all the way in here. So what I recommend is maybe grabbing another picture from Google, keeping in mind the usage rights, find something that's for use without modification or non-commercial use. Remember, you're just in Google Images, it's the tools. And then maybe place an image in here, put a caption, another headline, and then the rest of this can just be body copy. And then turn that in as a PDF. All right, so that's kind of an intro to InDesign and building your newspaper. Let me know if you have any questions, send me an email. All right, thank you.